I want to talk about a very interesting figure in Jewish and Christian writings, and that is the angel Metatron. He used to be the human scribe Enoch. Enoch was in the line of Seth, Adam and Eve's third son, and the great-grandfather of Noah. He is the seventh generation from Adam, which is significant because it is the number 7. I have talked about the number 7. I've also talked about generations in my other videos and what those mean. He's only one of 2 who did not die in the normal way. With Enoch, the words were, he walked with God and was no more. The other person, the prophet Elijah, was taken up in a chariot of fire. There are 3 books claiming Enoch as their author. So he appears briefly in Genesis 6, but he's the author of 3 books which expand on the Nephilim and the Watchers, the fallen angels, who came down to earth and had relations with the daughters of men, who bore them a race of giants. And then in the 3rd book, which is also called the Book of Palaces, because it describes heaven, in this book we find Metatron. He's considered the greatest angel in heaven, second only to God himself, and the mediator between the angels and God. He had whiplashes on his back. And it's called the lesser God. In the 3rd book, a rabbi named Ishmael is given a tour of the 7 heavens. So they call this the 7 heavens. The 7th heaven is the throne room of God. So there's 7 heavens. The 7th is the actual throne room of God. When Ishmael arrives at this place, he sees that Metatron is on his own throne, just outside the closed door of this chamber. It is then Ishmael is able to confirm that, yes, Metatron is indeed the lesser God. It is then Metatron who escorts Ishmael into 7th heaven. So, and lastly, Metatron is called the Prince of the Divine Presence, not the Prince of Angels, like Michael, but the Prince of the Divine Presence. So to summarize, Metatron is considered the greatest angel in heaven, with the only direct access to God, previously human, persecuted, as evidenced by the whiplashes on his back, known as the lesser God who sits on his own throne near the throne of God, and is titled the Prince of the Divine Presence. No other angel has the spiritual status or the duties of Metatron. That, of course, sounds like Jesus. Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus was human before he was resurrected, and Jesus was persecuted. In fact, he's not just like Jesus. He is Jesus. In other words, he is the Christ. It is the Christ who is persecuted, because it is the Christ who must overcome the darkness of the world. The angels come to our rescue. The angels embody God's light, God's energy, God's consciousness. But it is Metatron who has gone through the human travails like Jesus to overcome and to rise higher than the angels, to sit on his own throne near the throne of God, to be the mediator between God and the angels and between God and man. He is a Christ figure, probably the first account of the Christ, the Son of God, the divine creation, in the form of an angel. So if there are 2, then there are many. The only begotten, the lesser God, and the one who overcomes. What this book is attempting to tell us is that there is a path from human, not just to a heavenly position, but the heavenly position near God. We all have an opportunity as human beings to become divine in the same way that Enoch and Jesus did. We have the potential to be the Christ, the lesser gods of heaven. That's the message. To do that, we must walk the path of the Christ. Let me say that again. To do that, we must walk the path of the Christ. It is not enough to know this, that we have the divine potential, because it is only potential. Those who already believe they can become the Christ may never do so because they refuse to take up the cross on that path. So we have 2 factions. I grew up believing I could become the Christ because I was taught that in a New Age community. Then I began to learn Christianity. So then I thought, well, how do we combine these 2? Well, we combine these 2 by knowing that we have this potential with also knowing that we can't just have it with the snap of our fingers, but that we have to walk the path that Jesus walked. We have to overcome. We're going to have the burden of the cross at some point, but that our burden will be light if we're with God. And so combining these two teachings, we can become what Metatron became, what Jesus became. We can be the greatest in heaven next to God, working with the angels. We are the human who overcame and chose God over and over again until we were on our throne in heaven. That takes awareness, effort. And it's not, like I said, by this just because we want it, it's our potential. So what this is telling us, and that what we have to understand, is this is not something that just Jesus did. This is something that Jesus gave us as a gift to say, this you can do as well on your own path. He was here to help us with that. And then Paul came in and really strengthened that idea, giving us insight into the path of Jesus, which is the path of the Christ. This majestic angel that is an angel but different than the angels is who we will be when we reach our potential. It is one Christ, not one person. One Christ means one inheritance that is accessible to us all. Please like and subscribe, and thank you for listening. Until next time.